All right, so lesson 5 of Unit 6 and this is the final lesson in this unit, is about pest management laws. So there are a lot of laws and regulations because you are dealing with chemicals when it comes to applying these. So most of the things that we talked about are quite safe, especially mechanical and biological controls. But chemicals and pesticides and fertilizer, you have to have special care. Sometimes you have to have a permit in order to get these. Now, a lot of farmers, they have these permits and you file them. You have to take a course and pay and keep up with it every year. And you do that through your county extension office. And that requires buying fertilizer in bulk. But, you don't need a license to go buy Roundup or just small amounts. But there are laws and regulations in place for potential dangers and hazards that could happen with these chemicals. All right, so let's scroll down here. So federal law regarding agriscience chemicals say that integrated pest management is encouraged and favored. Pesticides are classed as general use or restricted use. States have the right to make their own laws regarding pesticide use. So every state has different laws. Texas has different laws than Florida. Their example is Florida. So Florida has a huge economic interest in agriculture, just as Texas. So the laws are more detailed than the federal laws, but rely on some of the same structures. So there's a good example of bulk spraying fertilizer. The fertilizer is in this tank, and they're spraying it. And they usually, like when you see those really, really tall tractors called high boys, that's what they do. They spray the fertilizer. So state laws emphasize labeling, use, disposal of pesticides, licensing. They're who are going to enforce these things for pesticides and herbicides. So fertilizers pose fewer risks than pesticides, and they don't have as high of regulations. There's still licensing requirements for them. So it's best to be knowledgeable, especially if you're going to pursue a career and where you're going to be needing to buy these things in bulk, to be aware of what license you need to have to get all of these. So let's do our knowledge check. Isla is an agri-scientist planning to work in the state of Florida. She knows she'll be applying restricted use pesticides on commercial farms. She'll also be using growth regulators and using fertilizers. What license does she need? She's going to need a commercial pesticide applicator license because she's working on commercial farms and she's applying pesticides. Yang is an agri-scientist calculating fertilizer application rate for a vegetable crop. He knows the crop needs 0.75 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. Fertilizer he wants to use is 24% nitrogen. What's the rate per 1,000? Remember, we do our calculation. 0.75 per 1,000 by the percentage of nitrogen, so by 0.24 to find 3.125 pounds of fertilizer. And the third one, Paxton is agri-scientist called to an ag area where grasshoppers have been consuming at astonishing speed. Farmers need a pest control method that is relatively cheap and convenient to use that can begin acting right away. So we want it immediate. So that right there tells me chemical because that's going to be the fastest. Fastest and most convenient. All right, so maintaining healthy plants requires smart care. Plants need access to a range of nutrients. And you've got to watch out for all those different types of pests. Remember, they're not just bugs. You've learned about how to apply fertilizer, these chemicals, and the laws and regulations for it in this unit.